So here at the Battle of Pharsalus in 48 BC, before my boy Caesar here, who we're going to represent with the King Tutankhamun figure, before he can go back to Rome and rule peacefully for the next 50 years, he first has to deal with Pompey at the Battle of Pharsalus, right? But Caesar has a problem because he's greatly outnumbered, as you can see here, 22,000 to Pompey's 36,000 to 45,000 men. Not only that, his biggest problem is the flank right here, where he's outnumbered in cavalry almost 5 to 1. So in order for Caesar to win this battle, he has to find a way to neutralize the flank, right? His win condition here, neutralize flank. Find some way to deal with it, because he can't win the battle if he doesn't do so. Something I want to point out too is notice that there's a river here to my left. That's why most of their forces, or most of their cavalry, are both focused on the right. They don't need to think about what's on this side of the battlefield. All that matters is here. And before I go into Caesar's plan to neutralize the flank, I also want to write something down that's very important about this battle. And that is, it's also a battle about the quality of men. As in, we understand what it means to have well-trained, well-disciplined men fighting under your command. Quality of men and neutralize the flank. So these are the two important things to remember. So let's talk about the forces on each side. You can see I've drawn the figures here, 22,000 to 36,000. Pompey's 36 to 45,000. He has a very wide, unique group of men, right? Phoenicians, Libyans, Syrians. Very diverse group of men fighting in his center. On his flank here, he has 5,000 cavalry. But these 5,000 cavalry, whilst more than Caesar's, they're not exactly elite equestrian fighting forces. They're light. They're not well trained. They're not well disciplined. They're a lot, but they're not very experienced, right? That's Pompey's men. Pompey had also kept his men 10 men. Had also formed his line 10 men deep, right? Which is deeper than usual, and I'll explain why he did that later. But he kept his lines 10 men deep. Let's talk about Caesar. Caesar, on the other hand, only has 1,000 cavalry on the flank. But in his center, holding his center, are, in my opinion, you have like the dream team of legions, right? You have all these fantastic legions that have been fighting with him, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, with all these fantastic names, Ferrata, Equestris, Claudia, Fulminata, right? And a lot of them have been thinned out because of his Gallic campaigns and whatever. But they're all here in the center, right? Mixed up together, grouped together, forming his center, which is only 6 men deep, right? In order to match Pompey's line, right? He has to only keep his men 6 men deep. Remember, he's at a unit disadvantage. So those are the two forces fighting each other. And let's talk about the battle tactics a little. Let's talk about what each side's plan is. I'm going to go over Pompey's plan first, okay? Because his plan is very basic. He has 2 parts to the plan. The first plan, or rather the first part of the plan, is to have his wall, his center, act like an anvil, right? He's going to keep his men here and have Caesar's men march forward and engage with his center, right? His plan is to then have his cavalry swing around in a flanking position and roll back Caesar's center, right? Because he has the cavalry advantage. It's what's expected in a battle like this, and Caesar knows this. Caesar knows that that's Pompey's plan, right? So that's Pompey's tactic, right? Keep all your cavalry to one side because the river's on this side. You don't need to protect this side. Keep all your cavalry on this side. Defeat Caesar's weaker cavalry, then swing around. Very basic strategy. Again, like I said, he kept his men 10 men deep to hold the line, right? To hold that line, to give his cavalry time to defeat the Roman cavalry and swing around. That's why he created a very deep line as opposed to a wide one, right? So that's Pompey's plan. But Caesar knows this, right? Caesar knows where his strengths are and where his weaknesses are. And this is a theme we see a lot in these sorts of battles. The greatest leaders and the best generals know their advantages and disadvantages very well and play to them excellently. So, let's talk about Caesar's plan. What Caesar's going to do is very intelligent. He's going to thin out one of his lines here. He's going to thin them out, right? He's going to grab about 3,000 men and create like a fourth hidden line. A fourth hidden line, like so. So I want you to pay attention to the way the way I've placed it is such that if you're on Pompey's side and you're at the beginning of the battle, Caesar's done in such a way that you can't see this hidden fourth line. You're one of these cavalrymen at the start of the battle. Nothing's changed, right? You're still facing down a fighting force that's much weaker than you. You don't know about this fourth line that Caesar has hidden. Caesar's also given these men instruction to act as spearmen, right? To thrust with their pillars as opposed to throw them, which is what they were usually used for. So this is Caesar's counterattack, right? Have this fourth line. Once Pompey's cavalry smashes through, create a feint, right? As if his cavalry is being routed, and then the fourth line is going to come through and drive back Pompey's inexperienced cavalry, right? So let's talk about how the battle proceeds. The first thing that starts, or the way the battle commences, is that Caesar sends out his first two lines, right? They begin moving forward. And as was customary at the time, Caesar's men were expecting Pompey's men to also charge forward and meet them halfway through. Instead, Pompey's men stay still, as I said, as part of Pompey's plan, to have Caesar's men tired, running up, right? But what happens is, as they're running up, they realize that Pompey's men haven't moved. So what do? They slow down, right? They regroup, and they begin a slow advance on Pompey's line. Now you might be thinking, okay, so what? So what? These guys were running quickly, then they stopped running and regrouped and walked slow. Okay, who cares? Let me explain. You have almost 15,000 men in this line. 15,000 adrenaline-filled, war-ready men running, getting ready to stab another human being, right? To have those 15,000 men stop and regroup is an amazing thing. And it speaks to this thing I was talking about, the quality of men, right? Readjusting on the battlefield to what the enemy is doing. Again, another great quality of not just great generals and leaders, of their men, right? It speaks to the quality of the men, as I was saying. So, they regroup, they reform, and they begin advancing. And they engage Pompey's forces. Something else to note, Caesar has kept his third and strongest line at the back, right? He doesn't want to commit them yet. As this happens, Pompey he begins his plan of having his cavalry charge forward on Caesar's cavalry. But just as Julius Caesar was expecting, after they rout and chase his cavalry, the fourth line that was hiding emerges and drives out the cavalry. They're suddenly met by this wall of spears they weren't expecting. 3,000 veterans of the Gallic Wars, rather, and they are driven back. And this is the second thing I want to talk about, the quality of men, right? These 5,000 cavalrymen, had they perhaps been better trained, better disciplined, rather than being routed, right, they might have been able to regroup, reform, and perhaps change the course of the battle in another way. Instead, they're chased off, right? And you see this stark contrast between Caesar's center being able to regroup to what the enemy's done, versus Pompey's cavalry not being able to adjust to Caesar's move, right? So that's what I mean about the quality of men. And from this point forward, the battle is pretty much won for Caesar. His cavalry and this fourth line he'd made swing around to create the rollback effect, the flanking and rollback effect, where he's gonna roll back, right, Pompey's center. And he commits his third line, right? He pours on the pressure at this point. He tells his third line to move forward once his flanking position is won, creates the pressure on all sides, and he wins the battle. So he did the two things that we were talking about, remember? Quality of men, and he successfully neutralized the flank. So we have a tick on both these things. So that's the Battle of Pharsalus. Again, I'm not going to talk about its consequences or anything. We only care about the battlefield here. Thank you so much for watching, by the way. If you can like and subscribe, mean a lot. The next battle I'm going to talk about is the Battle of Zama. Battle of Zama. I really like this battle because this battle feels like a chess move like a chess game rather, more than any other. You have Hannibal, my boy Hannibal, versus Scipio. And each of these guys has like their own like trump card, right? And each of them knows what the other one's trump card is, and they both have ways to neutralize their own trump cards. And it's a very exciting battle. This one's gonna be fun. So once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.